Well, let's head back overseas, and joining us is Professor Peter Mathews, Professor of Political Science at Cypress College in LA. Great to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm doing well. Thank you, Janie. How are you?
Very well indeed. So let's talk about, first of all, Hurricane Ian moving across inland parts of the USA. It certainly has left behind a repair bill which is expected to be in the billions of dollars. And just reading on the Washington Post this morning, they are quoting from the Insurance Information Institute that it's estimated property loss of exceeding $60 billion. I mean, we've seen the vision and the devastation. It's just unbelievable.
It really is. It's probably the worst hurricane devastation. We're looking at $65 billion worth of damage. And we're looking at 45 deaths at least. And not only that, but 18-foot walls of water, Janie. Can you imagine that? Up to 18-foot walls of water in Southwest Florida. It's horribly devastating. And, you know, it doesn't affect everyone equally, unfortunately. The hurricane does, but the aftermath doesn't affect everyone equally. The lower income neighborhoods don't get as much money to rebuild, and their property values go down compared to the higher income neighborhoods. We need to do this properly. FEMA needs to be across the board equally treating every victim of this horrible disaster.
And yes, it's just going to take so long to clean up. We've got, around 2 million homes and businesses without power. We spoke to the Red Cross in America yesterday, Professor, and, we're talking about, the hospitals are down and, a lot of people obviously needing equipment and blood. And it's just really so hard to comprehend. I mean, we've had back-to-back disasters and now this one.
Yes. And it will be tremendous being in a hospital. Imagine that if the machinery you're supposed to be using to keep yourself alive cannot be kept alive. It's a horrible situation. And yeah, I think it has to do with the IPCC report that came out a couple years ago that said that we have to keep our global warming temperature down to 1.5 degrees Celsius at the most by 2030. And yet now we're up to 1.1 already. And the disaster is becoming worse and worse every time we have these hurricanes, these droughts, these fires in California. They're all related to climate change, Jamie, and we've got to get a handle on this. And some things are being done, of course, moving toward clean energy, et cetera, but maybe not fast enough. We've got to move for this because this is going to continue getting worse.
Yeah, well, let's turn to other news. And US President Joe Biden, he has certainly given a warning to Russia that the United States are not going to be intimidated after threats from Vladimir Putin declaring the annexation of the 4 occupied regions in Ukraine. And we're also just hearing as well that, they've withdrawn their troops from Lehman and, plenty going on. What are you hearing in terms of some of the latest situations over there?
Well, Lehman is a very important post for their aggressive actions when they were taking over portions of Ukraine, because Lehman is in the heart of the Donbass region, which is Russian-speaking, which Russia has annexed as of yesterday. And yet the Russian troops withdrew from Lehman because they were circled by Ukrainian troops. So they're getting more and more desperate, the leadership, especially Putin, with this kind of forced withdrawal. And we wonder and shudder at the thought of him even threatening to possibly use tactical nuclear weapons on the field, the battlefield, because tactical weapons, when they explode, they can be very devastating, and not just for the soldiers, but the surrounding civilian community. And there could be a response from the other side in some way or the other. We hope not. It could escalate into a full-fledged nuclear conflagration or war. And these wars begin through miscalculation, as Barbara Tuchman pointed out in World War I. And now we're in the nuclear age. It's far, far worse. So we've got to really find a way to negotiate this still and bring an end to this immediately and allow Ukraine to be totally free and independent at the same time. And Russia should not have invaded and taken over territory that did not belong to her, especially the Donbass region, which does have a Russian-speaking majority. It should also protect the minorities like the Russian-speaking majority from any kind of discrimination that could occur when in the past and also in the future.
And we're going to have to wrap it up, but I did want to quickly ask you, Professor, Republicans, I believe they're saying that they're tired of the Trump drama.
Yes, indeed, and I can certainly see why, because the Republican Party, a very honored party founded back in the 1850s by people like Abraham Lincoln, a moderate Republican, had the tradition of moderation, of moderate conservatism, where you'd be trying to limit the role of government, but still protect some of the social programs and still, have enough regulation to keep things safe, but encourage entrepreneurship. This kind of Republican Party is out of style now. People, and not only that, but the way Trump has been utilizing misusing the democratic possibility of, acting in the proper way. He's been going against all democratic norms. It's destroying the Republican Party and American democracy. And so good Republicans who believe in democracy and rule of law are very alarmed by this. They want to be able to take the party back. People like Liz Cheney and other people in the Republican Party who need to be supported, in my view, so we can have a viable two-party system.
Professor Peter Mathews, always great to see you, and thank you very much for your time and expertise.
My pleasure. Thank you.